Most contractors spend 40 years building their business only to discover when it's time to sell that buyers see it as worthless. Why is that? It's because there's no reoccurring revenue. While 99.9% of contractors chase the next project, a small group has cracked the code on service agreements that create predictable income streams and premium valuations. If you're a mechanical, electrical, or plumbing contractor, this episode is especially for you. Today, Sean Samson reveals why you need to stop thinking like a contractor before it's too late and join the service revenue revolution that's quietly transforming the industry. Let's dive right in. This is Eric Anderton, and you're listening to Construction Genius, a leadership masterclass. Thomas Edison said that genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. If you're a construction leader, you know all about the perspiration, and this show is all about the 1% inspiration that you can add to your hard work to help you to improve your leadership. Sean, welcome to Construction Genius.
Thanks for having me, Eric. I appreciate it.
You know, it's interesting. I've worked with electrical and mechanical contractors over the years. And whenever I'm talking to them about their business, I always get hyped about the service opportunities that are in their business. And they always look at me for the most part and they say, yeah, Eric, I know, but it's really, 5, 6, 7, maybe 10% of our business. We want to grow it to 15 or 20. We see the logic behind it, but we're just not there. In your experience, what are the light bulb moments that finally convince leaders in these companies to commit to building their service division?
As an owner of a electrical contractor or mechanical contractor, I think the light bulb moment is getting to the end of your leadership portion of where you're at with that company and realizing that you don't have any recurring revenue and that you can't possibly sell it for the X number times EBITDA that you want, and that you don't have a business that you can push out there on a marketing in the world where some M&A company is going to come along and say, I can sell you for this, this, and this. And I think that hits home very hard with owners when they realize that they've worked at a business for 40 years and they try to put it on a market because their son doesn't want it, their daughter doesn't want it, the cousin doesn't want it. And they go, well, I'm just going to go ahead and just cash out. And then they get out, they put it on the market and somebody tells them that their baby's ugly.
Yeah.
And I think that's the light bulb moment for contractors, is they were like, well, I've been doing this my entire life, and you're telling me there's really no worth to what I have. And I think that's a light bulb moment for owners. It's not something that they want to hear, but it's absolutely the truth.
Yeah, it's interesting because with that in mind, building a service division is really a succession planning decision. And from my experience, the best construction companies, they don't wait 3 to 5 years before they want to get out to start succession planning. They start doing it from the very beginning.
Correct. Or they start doing it when somebody starts getting interested in their business. Now they're behind the 8 ball and they're trying to figure it out.
Yeah. It's interesting though, because, guys, gals start their business, and most of the time, the reason they start them is because they're good at building projects, and that's where they get their buzz. Service seems like an afterthought, but to me, it's like this big pot of money that's just sitting there. If you're able to shift your mindset and begin to think about building it, what are some first steps that you talk to your clients about in terms of shifting that mindset and beginning to grow their service business?
This is a great question, and I'm going to answer your question by giving you an idea of what's coming up. We just got a call on. There's a company that we're going out to meet for the very first time, and they are a plumbing contractor. And they've been around for a very long time. They do between $28 and $30 million a year. They do right around $2 million a year in service right now, but they have no service contracts in place. They have no recurring revenue in place. So if you can imagine a conversation where you're the owner of that plumbing contractor and you're so excited because you do around $2 million a year in service. The problem with that is I can't get excited about your $2 million. And the reason why I can't get excited about it is because you guys have to work just as hard next year and the year after that and the year after that. And with that $2 million, there's no recurring revenue. There's no multi-year service agreements at all that are piggybacked off of the emergency calls that you had, the projects that you've had, any of the repairs, replacement. It's just $2 million. So that $2 million, if I want to buy that plumbing contractor, I'm going to look at that $2 million from really as almost a bid and spec type of dollar amount. I cannot concentrate or promise that that $2 million is going to happen the next year, because it is just basically a bid and spec type of service type of work. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's interesting though, because like contractors obviously are very used to signing contracts
Sure.
and executing the provisions of that contract. But the mindset obviously is however long the project lasts is however long the contract lasts. And I might have some warranty work after that or whatever the case may be. But this idea of long-term service contracts, it's just a completely different mindset. And so how do you begin to sow the seeds with people so that mindset shift happens? Obviously, coming in and saying to them starkly, hey, listen, dude, your company's not really worth that much other than a few relationships that you have. And so
Sure.
if you want to retire and get paid for all of your blood, sweat, and tears, you need to change it. But it's one thing to know it. It's another thing to begin to take steps to change it. So how does that happen?
First things that you absolutely want to key in on is what is the niche of the contract? What's the training of the technicians? What's the competency level of the service team? What types of vertical markets are they really good at and they service? What are the targets in their market? So you ask a very good question, but it's a very tough question. And the reason why it's a tough question is because there's so many moving parts that you want to look at in regards to getting somebody moving in that right direction. But the first thing they should look at, man, is look at the organizational chart that they have right now and look at how they can create a niche in the market that they're in. And then start bundling those particular niches or bundling those particular technologies or service offerings and start putting those into a service agreement that you can sell to where you have those touch points every single year or every quarter or whatever that scope of work looks like for that particular contractor. So finding a niche and finding what their competency levels for their team is really where you want to start, because you'll start building service agreements based on what they're really excellent at, if that makes sense, right?
Okay, so let's explore that. You use the word niche.
Yep.
Give us a definition of what you mean by niche, just so that everyone's on the same page here.
Sure. So I'm going to use the electrical contractor as an example.
Sure.
If I am an electrical contractor and I have particular people on my team that are absolutely fantastic at diagnosing particular service problems for switchgear or for PLCs or for VFDs or for motors or for things like that. Somebody that is on my team where they're just a rock star at being able to hone in on those particular issues. They're very good with particular types of manufacturers, things like that. Another niche could be where I have a team where I have a couple of guys on there that are level 1 or level 2 thermographers. So the niche can be with the competency level of that individual or with particular technologies that they can create niches as well and start working those into a service agreement or a service type of level to where you can then start rolling that out to your existing customer base or try to connect with new money with people you don't even do business with yet, right?
So it's interesting because when I think of niche, I think of looking outward. The way you're describing it, the way that you're thinking about niche in terms of building services, looking inward and seeing what your guys are really good at doing and thinking through how can I build some reoccurring revenue-based services as I look at those skills and see what the market needs are. Am I hearing that right?
You are hearing that right, but I am also going to agree with you that we just talked about this a few minutes ago. Part of understanding what that niche is also understanding the market that you're in, and will the market that you're in be able to support the niche and support the services that you're building out?
Yeah. So when you begin to talk about building the service arm, the first thing that popped into my head right there was just, okay, overhead. So I'm going to have to take on additional overhead perhaps as I explore this aspect of building my service arm. And, frankly, maybe I don't have capacity to bring on extra overhead. How do I wrestle through that?
That's a really good question. So I'm going to go with loss is more compelling than gain mentality.
Yep.
So we did this talk for NECA last year at the MGM, and I had a couple of contractors come up to me after the end of the day, and they said that they know that they're missing out opportunities, and they know that their markets can sustain service. They want to build this out, and they want to get to the $5 or $10 million mark within the next 5 to 7 years. And if an owner comes up to me and says, I want to build a $5 million service division.
Yep.
What's happening right now is that it's actually costing them $5 million a year because they don't know how to do it.
Yes.
So if the cost is already there, are you really writing a check for $5 million a year because you know that you're not? But somewhere you're losing money because you don't know how to do it. Finding out what that dollar amount is very important in regards to scaling this thing out. Because when owners say, I don't have the money to do it, you're already losing money every single year because you don't know how to do it. So getting them an idea of what their loss is by not having these things in place is probably one of the first conversations we always have in trying to get this thing rolling and trying to scale these contractors, because loss, and I always talk about this, anybody that's in our network or follows me or is working with SST knows that I always talk about loss being more compelling than gain.
Yeah.
And if I can tell you what you're losing, that's way more exciting than me telling you what you can win.
Yeah.
People don't move on wins, they move on losses.
Okay, so let's say I buy your logic there. The next step, it seems, is that I have to then be able to set aside time to be able to work on this. And then I have to think about where to start. Because let's say I have 3 or 4 potential areas to begin to build out my service arm, and I could be bundling those or they could be separate. But at the same time, I don't want to take on a ton of risk. I still need to build the projects that I've contracted for. I still need to dedicate a lot of resources to operations. Where do I begin? Where's the sweet spot to begin in terms of building the service?
Let's take a company that already has a service division first.
Okay, let's do it.
If you already have a service division in place, then you've somewhat put people in place and develop an organizational chart for people to handle different parts of that service team. You have technicians in place, you have technology in place, you have service manager in place, you have controllers in place, you have admins in place. I think that there's contractors understand that they probably have more in place than they realize. The problem is that they have no idea how to develop those processes or a model that makes all that tick and understand who gets to hand off when this is completed, who gets to hand off when this is completed. How do I circle back around to Eric 6 or 9 months later to make sure everything's okay? What does the customer outreach look like? What do my targets look? So I think that there's more in place in contractors. They have more in place than they think they have, but I think they get blindsided on the bid and spec side, and they're more comfortable with the construction side than the service side. Because let's be honest, Eric, and this is a big one, construction is a lot easier than service.
That's interesting. Why do you say that?
Anybody that's going to see this podcast understands what I'm about to say or will respect what I'm about to say. Construction is easier from a perspective of managing numbers and not managing people. So look at construction for a second. If I'm a construction business, I know that from a volume perspective, I'm going to pull bids off of email and pick up physical bids someplace, but I'm going to get these RFPs that are going to come into my office, and I'm going to hand them to you, to Bob, and to Sue, and I'm going to say, all right, guys, you guys do X, Y, and Z, and make sure you guys kick these out the door. So I'm managing numbers. But when I get into service, I have to manage people, and I have to manage quotas, and I have to manage touch points, and I have to manage a process that makes people feel good and want to work with you. I don't have to do that on the construction side. So construction as a whole, if this makes any sense, has really lazied up the electrical contractor or the contractor in general, because I don't have to do much other than what we just talked about. Now, I know there's going to be some contractors out there who are going to be like, hey, man, don't throw us contractors under the bus because we work really hard. That's not what I'm saying. As a matter of fact, the electrical, mechanical, plumbing contractors, hardest working people on the planet.
Right.
I mean, just some smart dudes, man, and some smart ladies out there. I get it.
Totally.
But construction lazies you up and is easier to manage because I have to manage numbers. On the service side, I have to manage people, and construction people don't know how to manage the service side. They're not built that way.
Okay, so then just explore that a little bit more with me. What's the fundamental difference when it comes to managing service over managing a construction project? Is it the fact that I've got this long time frame, that it's sort of an open-ended agreement, or maybe it's a multi-year agreement, as opposed to just, hey, I'm going to start in June, we're going to finish by December, and then we're going to be done and we'll move on to the next one?
That's exactly it, man. You're touching on some really good points here. The mentality of the electrical contractor or contracting in general is I want to get the gig. I want to make sure I don't lose my ass on that. And I want to get out.
Yeah.
Service is a never-ending wheel of touch points and relationship selling. And they are not built that way, which again, I'll go back to what we said a few minutes ago. That's why construction is easier than service, because service, it never ends. It's this infinity process. And it only ends if I choose to make it end. If I choose not to have those touch points, if I choose not to have customer care calls, if I choose not to have a salesperson have a quota, if I choose not to continue to upskill the training on my teams, all those things will start falling backwards. And then, of course, it's going to log jam everything up to that point. But that's the answer to that is that I would much rather do construction than service, even though the margins on service are vastly higher than the 3 to 5 or 7% if they're even lucky to get on the construction side.
Okay, so it's interesting because you were talking about earlier how contractors have stuff already going that lends itself to being able to build a service organization. And as you're talking here, one of the things I was thinking about is my clients emphasize with their PMs and their estimators and the folks who are running the projects, hey, listen, we are looking to build long-term relationships, particularly as a sub to a GC or maybe a sub to an owner that's going to be building multiple projects. And so we do have that mindset of it's not just this project, but it could be the next project. But it seems like with service, the scale, obviously, of one particular interaction from a dollar amount and from a complexity amount is way reduced to the scale of building a project and the money that you bring in as a result of that. And so it's almost as if some contractors struggle to shift their mind from here's a $5 million project I'm building to here's a $10,000 service agreement or a $20,000 service agreement that I'm looking to develop.
Right. So let's take that $10,000 service agreement as an example.
Sure.
You cannot and you will not scale the service or maintenance side of your business without the pull-through work that comes from the sale or the hustle of the service agreement. So let me build that out for you a little bit more.
Yeah, please.
If I sell you a $10,000 electrical preventative maintenance agreement, let's just say,
sure,
I have to have processes and back-end handoffs in place and a model in place that has to get me a $3 return for every maintenance dollar that I sell. That's where I start really scaling this thing and making money and really rock starring this thing out. I'm never, ever, ever going to gain traction off of selling maintenance agreements on their own. I have to have a process in place that allows me to develop the pull-through work that comes from the $10,000 sale. So if I sell you a $10,000 agreement, I want to get $3 return in lighting retrofits, infrared windows, panel replacements, all those things that are coming from the relationship of that $10,000. And that's the biggest ball dropper, Eric, because they concentrate on selling the service agreement and don't concentrate on the pull-through work that comes from the $10,000. And I can't scale any service division unless we have those markers in place. That is the 3-to-1 best case scenario in that model, if that makes sense.
All right, quick break to talk about my book, Construction Genius. This is what I want you to do. Go to Amazon, search for the book, read all of the 5-star reviews, because there's a ton of them. Over 50 to be precise. And the reason I want you to read them is because real people wrote those reviews who've actually read the book. And it'll give you an idea of why you should go and buy a copy right now on Amazon. And here's the deal. If you purchase 10 or more copies for your company, and then send me an email, eric@constructiongenius.com, I'll come in via Zoom and do a 1-hour Q&A and a bonus training session with your team at no charge. I normally charge $4,500 for an hour of my time. And again, for you, I'll do it at no charge if you buy 10 or more copies of my book. And the reason you should buy it is all in the title. It's effective, hands-on, practical, simple, no BS, leadership, strategy, sales, and marketing advice for construction companies. So if you're in the construction industry, this book is for you. So you can get it on Amazon. You can also get it on Audible in the audio version as well, narrated by yours truly. And I know you'll really enjoy it. So go out and get the book. And now back to the interview. Okay, so what I'm hearing from you, and just correct me if I'm not hearing it right, one way to shift your mindset as a contractor is to see these small dollar service agreements as a gateway into bigger dollars, such as when you say pull through work, special projects pops into my mind. And then from the special projects, you could even get the larger contracts and become the provider of choice because of the work that you begin to do with this small little 10,000 nothing service agreement.
That's exactly right. The key words that we want to key in on here are increased negotiated projects.
Yeah.
That's really what we're talking about here, because with having a system in place for service and maintenance and multi-year service agreements, it's supposed to, if I'm doing it right, it's supposed to give me those options to have those increased negotiated projects come my way to where I don't have to worry about bidding with 3 other guys. I have the relationship in place to where that owner of that business or that manager of that building's like, hey man, I've been working with you guys on this service and maintenance stuff. I got $120,000 that I want to spend on a lighting retrofit or adding on to X, Y, and Z. I'm going to give it to you guys because I know that you guys are the best.
So it's so interesting, right? Because it's almost as if what we're asking people to do is say, stop thinking of yourself as a contracting organization. Start thinking of yourself primarily as a service organization. And through that service, you do build out the contracting side of your business.
That's exactly right. I'm going to tell you how right you are. And I'm going to just compare an apple to an apple for a second. When we start working with contractors, the very first thing that we tell them is that they are no longer a contracting organization. They're a sales organization.
Interesting.
And I'm just going to compare, and I'm going to go off the beaten path here for a quick second, and I'm going to make sense of something else.
Sure.
I had just met with my cousin the other day, and she is building out her business to where she's been, and she's probably going to watch this podcast and know that I'm butchering this and getting it wrong, but I'm going to try to make sense of it. She's been certified in Reiki. She is now a life coach. She has all these certifications.
Sure.
And I met with her the other day. We were having coffee. She's real excited about all these certifications. She goes, and I can do all these things. And I said, Kristen, you know that you're no longer in Reiki. You know, you're no longer in life coaching. You know, you're no longer in any of these things. She goes, well, what do you mean? I go, you're in sales now. You understand that, right, Chris? And she just kind of looked at me for a couple of minutes. She goes, I never looked at it that way. I'm like, well, what do you mean you never looked at it that way? You can't do any of that shit unless you get people to move in your direction.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Contractor, you're no longer in contracting. You are now at least using our processes. You are now a sales organization. The paradigm shift has to shift at some point.
Yep. So it's interesting because as you're talking about that, I think one trap that contractors get into is playing other people's games. And this is the way we've always done it, right? I'm a sub. I work with the GCs. I work with the owners. The owners come with the project. The GC tells me about it. I bid on it, all this kind of stuff, right? But you can create your own game and it can be whatever you want it to be. You just have to shift the way that you think about it. And that's a challenge, though, because a lot of folks get into construction because they're builders. That's the whole point. They love saying, I built that.
Yeah.
And perhaps you need a little bit of a mindset shift to moving towards more, hey, I sold that.
Yeah.
But that's tough, right? Because, who wants to be a salesperson? But it's interesting. If you start with sales and then back that up with killer service, that contracting side of your business can grow in ways that wouldn't have been possible if you had just stuck to the bid and the planning and the speccing and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I was listening to Tony Robbins the other day, and he had said something, and I morphed it into what it is that we do, and it really is powerful. And I'm going to kind of change a couple of things, but really what I'll say is that they're not really experiencing contracting. They're only focused on the contracting that they focused on. And contracting to me is relationship selling. Contracting to me is getting an understanding of people's business, their business interruption, the competency of their team. What are the gaps that me as a contractor can fill that your own internal teams can't fill for you? It really is a partnership. And I wish that contractors would look at contracting of more of a partnership rather than a transaction.
Sure.
And that's, to me, I think that's really, the uphill climb that we have as a training organization is changing that mindset, Eric, from those contractors that continue to think that they're a contractor and not a relationship selling organization, or like we talked about, a sales organization. It's a tough go, man. I mean,
But I think that goes back to one of
really
the
is.
things to think about is the niche that you choose, right? Because to be a plan and spec type builder, that's a choice, right? That's a niche that you choose. And maybe you do that because that's all you've ever known. But again, if you begin to shift your thinking and move from that type of work to a different type of niche where the relationship selling is more important, and you're shifting the way things go from sort of tacking on service, because that's what a lot of these guys think about, right? I'm just going to tack it on, and man, if I can grow it a little bit, that's going to give me some extra cash. But if you're thinking of it as a tack on, that's the wrong way to approach it. You should think of it as the heart of your business.
Agreed, because I don't think that anybody's going to manage a tack on for any length or period of time. Contractors have what I call opportunity ADHD.
Yeah.
And when opportunities come around that make them a lot of money, or opportunities come around where there's a model in place, or something that looks like a real niche, they will put the money and the effort into it because it looks like an opportunity, but they get bored very, very fast.
Yeah.
And I think that seems to be one of the issues that we've experienced over the last 25 to 30 years as contractors will look at opportunities, dump money into particular training and opportunities, but their attention spans to those are very slim because it isn't what they're used to, and it isn't what they're comfortable at. And they're used to RFPs, they're used to contracting, getting things pushed out the door as fast as they can and crossing their fingers in the hopes that they have the lowest bid.
Yeah, it's interesting because sometimes what you can do unknowingly is just walk over these opportunities. Like something comes up and you take the opportunity as it comes, but you miss the fact that this opportunity could be leveraged into far much more if I change my mindset in terms of how I approach running my business.
Yeah. Well, the bigger the organization, the quicker alignment decays throughout their organizational chart.
Yeah.
If you look at the makeup of anybody in the MEP arena, the contractors up to about $50 million will have the attention span. They will spend the money. They will make sure that they put the people and the technologies in place, and they will manage those things and do it very, very well. Anybody over that $50 million mark, there's too many decision makers, too many moving parts. You've got an organizational chart that is absolutely wacky and crazy. You've got redundancy everywhere, and you've got all these people that if you got them into a room, you couldn't make a decision if your life depended on it.
Okay, so then as you're saying that with a larger organization, what popped into my mind here is that what a CEO, let's say you are over 50 million, let's say you're 100 million, 200 million, whatever the case may be. That's when you perhaps have to say, okay, I'm going to separate out, I'm going to build this service division. And I'm going to seek to implement into that service division the mindset that we've been talking about here of service first, sales first, and then use that division as my test case for a complete organizational shift. But it's going to take some time. So if I am larger, let's say I'm listening to the podcast, I'm agreeing with you that there's a bunch of inertia that has to be overcome in order to change my business if that's what I want to do. How much time should I be willing to commit to this new way of looking at things as I'm building it out and testing it out and going through all the growing pains?
I think that anytime you put something new in place, it takes about anywhere between 24 to 36 months to really start seeing things happen. Because what really happens, man, is that you have, by the way, it's not a secret. Most people hate change.
Yep.
And if you look at the electrical contracting business, they're a 100-year-old startup. And when when the owner starts putting new processes in place, you're going to have some very unhappy people.
Yep.
And you're going to start moving around your organizational chart. So the first 6 months, the first 8 months is finding out who really wants to be a part of this team and who doesn't. Who's really going to accept the changes and know that this is for the betterment of the contractor and you as an employee as we start building these things out, so it leads to more opportunities for everybody in general. But it's about a 24 to 36 month build out. And I'm going to piggyback off that, and I'm going to say this. Years ago, I was having lunch with an owner of a $400 million contractor. And he looks at me while we're having lunch and he says, I want to make service and maintenance a third of my business.
Wow.
And I looked right at him and I said, fantastic. What are you going to do to make that happen?
Yep.
Don't look at me, man.
Yep.
I'm not the decision maker. I'm not the guy that's going to run into all these divisions. I'm not the guy that's going to be managing your teams. Yes, we're going to train you. You're going to use our systems and we're going to help move this thing along because we're the experts at it. But don't tell me you want to make it a 30-year business. You tell me if you want to make this a 30-year business, then let me sit here and you tell me what you're going to change internally to have that happen. So let me just sit back and listen, Mr. Owner, because I'm really interested in understanding what that sounds like.
And how did he respond to that?
He didn't respond to that. He never responded to it. Never responded.
It's interesting because I know there's guys listening to the podcast right now and they're like, yeah, I know. But, and then whatever the drop down level of reasons is that they're not doing it. Because what you're saying here is it's almost as if you're starting a new business in a certain way. And you're so comfortable with what's worked so far, but you've got to become perhaps more entrepreneurial. And particularly if you're doing well, because if you've built a business that's, $100 million in revenue, obviously you've done something right. But in order to really get that service built up, it's almost like starting a new business, right?
It really is. I pushed a post out the other day. I'm not sure if you saw it. And it was basically, the message was never go after a particular dollar amount, never go after the revenue. You have to go after the back end processes. You have to go after the model and the mission. If you do that, you'll 10x your targets over and over and over again. And I think one of the problems that owners always go after is dollar amounts or revenue amounts. And that is, you cannot do that. People will work and will adhere to systems and processes and back-end philosophies and missions. They do not gel well or adhere to dollar amounts. You can't come to me and say, hey, I want to build up my service division to 50 million over the next 4 or 5 years. What are you talking about? Great. So how are we going to do that? Don't go after the revenue. Don't go after a dollar amount. You have to build the back-end processes and the team in order to do that. Never go after never, ever, ever go after particular dollar amounts. Don't do that, because the dollar amounts that you're looking to get are going to happen for you if you put the back-end processes in place.
Think about the last time you promoted someone into a leadership role and it failed. Why did it fail? I can tell you one reason. People know how to build projects, but they don't know how to build and lead teams of people. Construction comes with its challenges that only insiders truly understand. Generic leadership training doesn't cut it. You need a program to train your leaders built specifically for construction professionals led by an industry expert. And my online course, The Shift, is exactly that course. It has 5 modules. It'll teach your people how to control their calendars and reduce stress and embrace chaos and accomplish their critical tasks. It will teach them the 3 essential messages they have to communicate every day in order to motivate and lead their team effectively. It'll show them how to build and lead a high-performing team, give them a framework for running effective meetings so they'll be able to solve problems in less than an hour, and also give them a higher perspective on their leadership that will enable them to work on the business and on their teams and not get stuck in the weeds micromanaging. So go out to my website, theshift.constructiongenius.com, read all about the course, and then enroll yourself and your leaders in the course, and I guarantee that it will transform your leadership. If it does not, you take the whole course and you didn't get benefit from it, you just send me an email, eric@constructiongenius.com, and I will cheerfully refund you 100% of your money. I'm really confident this course will transform your leadership. So again, go out to the website, theshift.constructiongenius.com, learn more about the course, and start taking it today. So let's talk about the back-end processes. One that I'm particularly interested in, because there's going to be differences here. The sales process for a contractor is different from a sales process for a service provider. What are some of the key elements of a sales process for a service provider that must be in place if you're going to be successful?
So let's look at the build out of what a current sales process is, which, by the way, I'm going to use that very loosely, the current sales process for an electrical contractor versus a service side of the contractor.
Yep.
Okay. I'm a customer. I call you up and I say, Eric, I'd like for you to stop out to my manufacturing place and I want you to look at a couple of things.
Sure.
And you go, yeah, man, no big deal. I'll come out Tuesday, 3:00. Come out Tuesday, 3:00. You meet with me. You haven't spent any time with me in asking me what my budget is, who are the decision makers, what is the time frame to get this project done, what are your critical areas of your business interruption costs. Why don't you have your internal team do this? Why don't you just go out and buy the shit and put it in yourself? So there is no sales process for the electrical contractor. What they'll do is they'll go out, they'll meet with you, very, very little conversation. You're going to take them through your plant. This guy's going to take some notes, some pictures. He's going to go, great. Next steps is I'll have this over to you within the next couple of days. And what do? They email it over to you.
Yeah.
Right? The service side of this business has a very particular sales process and steps in place. And whether it is a mechanical, plumbing, or electrical contract or service contract, there are 3 steps to selling service.
Let's go.
The first step is I have to be very good at opening up discovery with you as a prospect.
What does that word discovery mean?
Discovery, I'm hoping, is what everybody would assume it would mean. It would mean that I have to find out as much as I possibly can and do a deep dive of who you are, what your business does, why you do it, and get those markers in place so I know how to be a problem solver for you. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So who, what, why?
Yeah.
I'm looking to surface those problems because I want to sell to those problems. That's why people buy, because you're there to solve problems for them.
100%. So I have to be very good at understanding how important discovery is with customers.
Yep.
Just like if you use an attorney, or just like if you've ever been to a doctor's office or your financial planner, all those professionals put you through some type of discovery.
Yes.
Okay. Second part of the sales process is I have to perform or do some type of job walk or inventory to put together a scope of work or a program type that's going to make best sense based off of what we got out of the discovery.
Yep.
Third step in my service sales portion of this is what we call a verification meeting. It's exactly what contractors don't do, because that guy's just going to take a couple of pictures, a couple of notes, and email you the proposal.
Yep.
In service and sales, I have to schedule a verification meeting with you where I have to come out and review everything we talked about in our discovery, review everything we did in the walkthrough of the facility, counting components. Why is this machine critical? How come this corrugated box machine costs you $200,000 an hour? Why is this? Why is this? And if I do that, if I run that verification meeting effectively, then I can put a service agreement or a service contract in front of them and ask them for their business, because people forget how they got to the point where they're at. And it's our job to remind them of those pain points. And that's the difference between a contractor type of sale versus a service type of sale.
Yeah. And so when the second point, the job walk, is obviously something that people who are in contracting are very familiar with.
Sure.
But point 1 and point 2, perhaps not as familiar with.
Agreed.
And so what you're doing here is you're creating the game that you're playing. And I think the very best sales process is what they do is that the company who's doing the selling says, this is our game. These are the rules of playing the game.
Yeah.
Our job as a sales organization is to find people who are willing to play our game our way. And if they're not willing to play our game our way, we're okay with that. We'll just go find people who are willing to play that game.
Yeah. Man, it's funny that you use the word game, because we just wrapped up what we call our Empower conference. And I use the word game all the time. And it's funny and interesting that you use that word, because all day long, the people that win are the people that understand the game.
Yes.
It's the financial game. It's the people game. It's the budget game. It's the decision maker game. It's a critical areas game. It's the vertical market game. It's a big game. If you don't want to be a player, then you're going to lose the game. I mean, it really is that simple. And if you don't want to put the work and the time in to be the 1% of the 1%, then you have to be okay with other people closing business for you and getting the jobs that you were supposed to get. It's not easy to say, but I'm really glad you used the word game, because it really is a game that we play all day long. You just have to be better at it, man.
Yep. So it's interesting, right? Because like when you're playing a sport, for instance, the game is clearly defined. Everybody knows what the game is going in. It's just then a matter of you building your skills in playing the game. And so incrementally over time, you can build your skills. Let's say I want to create that game. And for the purpose of this podcast, we're focused on the idea of building the service aspect of your business. What's the first step I should take in creating that game?
You have to get players involved, Eric, that are willing to be coached and willing to be mentored in new types of processes and procedures and tools.
Yeah.
You have to have a team that is coachable.
Yeah.
I don't really care what business you're in. If you can't put together a team, or if we can't put together a team where you have X number of people that just aren't coachable, the odds of that getting any place exciting is very, very slim.
Yeah.
And you also have to have leadership that understands sales. If there's an organization that's going to listen to this podcast and listen to this episode, if you are an organization that has a manager in place or any type of leadership in place that doesn't understand sales, easier said than done, but they've got to get out of those positions.
Yeah, it's interesting. Okay, so let's say you're sitting with an engineer, right?
Yeah.
Let's say we go back earlier in the conversation. You've identified some of the folks in your business who are really good at delivering particular types of service, and there's potential there to build something. But I'm sitting with an engineer who at least thinks they've never sold anything in their lives, right? And the last time they went and bought a car, the salesperson hosed them, and they're just not interested in anything that you have to say about being a salesperson. But they're good people, and you want them in the business. How do you help them change that mindset?
Just so I understand, I am an engineer, an electrical contractor, or a mechanical contractor that's going out and meeting with people.
Yeah. So, and again, maybe the owner of the company has tabbed me as someone to assist in this building of the service, right? Again, I'm skilled. I've got the knowledge. I'm going to be a core part of this initiative, but I need help in embracing the fact that I'm a salesperson. How can you help me?
Well, I think that goes back to the training that will go into selling, into relationship selling. So I love all your questions because they're so relevant. So I'm going to answer the first part of it like this. If you're an engineer, then do me a favor and engineer the sale.
There you go.
If you are a project manager, do me a favor and project manage the sale.
That's cool.
Now, I know that there's other particulars, or there's things that go into making sense of what it is that I'm talking about. But in order for me to engineer the sale, in order for me to project manage the sale, I have to be very comfortable with what it is that I'm selling and understand what it is that I'm selling.
Yeah.
What we have found was, and I'm going to piggyback off of this, and I'm going to give you a 30-second idea of where I came from. I started in this industry selling multi-year service agreements for a contractor in Cleveland. I've got no technical background.
Yep.
I'm not an engineer. I'm not an electrician. When I started, I couldn't tell you the difference between a drive, a motor, and a UPS system. But what I had was the willingness to upskill myself and know that if I was going to sell these things, I had to understand the technical side of the sale.
Yes.
Okay. What we have found was, and I was the anomaly, I've sold hundreds of millions of dollars in service agreements. But what we had found is that the technical people are easier to train on the sales side, and the salesy people are harder to train on the technical side.
Yes.
So if I can take a technical person like a service technician or a project manager or an engineer that's got a great personality, that understands people, that understands relationships in general, and is able to open up conversation, those are the people that have served very well and have done very well in selling service and maintenance agreements because they understand the technical side. They just have to get a little sexier on the sales side.
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100% there. It's such an advantage to bring someone in who actually knows what they're talking about.
Sure.
Because that helps to create credibility, and people buy from people that they know, trust, and like. And so if you put your technical experts in front of people and give them a little bit more training on the people side of it, then you can really exponentially grow the business from that perspective.
Yes, absolutely.
You said something earlier just a minute ago, actually, that caught my ear.
Sure.
Multi-year service agreements. People might hear that and scoff. You know, how are we going to get a multi-year service agreement in place? Tell us a little bit more about that, because I know it's something that you have a great deal of conviction about in terms of it being a possibility for people to be able to execute on.
Earlier in this conversation, we talked about understanding the niche and understanding the market and understanding the business that people are in. In our industry, and I'm going to use the electrical contractor to make my point.
Sure.
In the electrical contracting industry, the electrical contractor has three of the most important and best sales tools that they could ever have and choose to ignore them. The sales tools are NFPA 70E, NFPA 70B, and the electrical code, which is NFPA 70.
Okay.
Using the two standards, 70E and 70B, and using code, I can write a multi-year service agreement based off of 70B, which is my manufacturer's recommendations in regards to how should equipment be maintained.
Right.
And I can use 70E from a multi-year service agreement perspective in understanding how do I stay safe working on or around the equipment. And then I can use 70, the code, to help me land my pull-through work, which is what we talked about 15 minutes ago, in understanding how do I get the repairs and or the replacement from the sale of the service agreement. Does that make sense?
Yes. So let me stop you there just real quick.
Sure.
And let's take it out of electrical into other areas as well. What you're talking about here is understanding the parameters and whatever it is that I'm installing that are related to safety, that are related to uptime, those kinds of things. Am I hearing that right?
100%.
And so again, what someone can be doing is they can just be walking right over that and missing that as an opportunity to leverage that information and the reality that people function under in order to grow the service side of the business.
100%.
They just don't even think about it when they're in contractor mode.
And that's why contracting is easier than service.
So you have to be, almost what you're saying is you have to kind of get creative if you're going to be able to grow your service business and do so in a way that you're landing those multi-year contracts.
I wouldn't even say it's getting creative. How about just understanding what the industry is giving you from the two standards in the code?
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yep.
But they choose to want to contract and continue to ignore what these standards are offering them. And that's where your multi-year service agreements, that's what they're written around, are those two standards in code. And that's what we teach, and that's how we create higher valuation and higher EBITDA and all those things. Because as a buyer, buyers don't want construction companies. Buyers want a process that's in place that onboards recurring revenue. That's what they want. And that's what the electrical standards do. But again, contractors are too busy contracting, and you only have a handful of. There's 70,000 contractors in the United States, 70,000 electrical contractors in the United States.
Yep.
And I would say that 99.9% of them choose to ignore the electrical standards. And we're very thankful that our network of contractors, our clients, have the exact opposite mindset and are working in the direction of predictable recurring revenue and higher valuation.
And so it's interesting because let's just say that those, whatever the number may be, the vast, vast majority of electrical contractors in this case are not doing that. And so what that presents for me, if I'm an electrical contractor, is I don't have to go chase new projects or anything like that. I just have to stop and I have to think and I have to look at the opportunities that are right in front of me. And I can go about building that business without even my competition knowing it, without it even impacting them in that day-to-day sort of contracting world, because I'm over here building almost an entirely new business. And yet that business is going to help me on the contracting side because of the pull-through work and the opportunity to land new contracts as a result of the service I'm providing.
Man, well said.
Interesting. Okay, now I know what's happening here. We've been going for 50 minutes and people's brains are just going all over the place with different ideas. And so everyone who's listening to this, you're going to have to ruminate on this, stew on it, think about it, get with your executive team, discuss it. In addition to that, they can reach out to you, Sean. So tell us a little bit more about your business, how people can get in touch with you, what it is that you do.
Yeah, so Sean Samson Training we truly are the thought leaders and the preferred source in scaling electrical, mechanical, and plumbing contractors and taking them from transactional businesses to a recurring revenue business model. And in order to do that, you have to have a mindset in how you look at your contracting business. So what we do, Eric, is we work with their leadership teams and help them scale and piece together the service and maintenance side of their business, give them a very particular service and maintenance business model, all the tools, all the training. the estimating platforms to estimate multi-year service agreements, and really an all-inclusive type of service where they cannot find that anywhere else. And we've been doing that, gosh, for 20 plus years. We've worked with 300 contractors in over 300 contractors in 16 countries doing this.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
So tell us, how can people get in touch with you, Sean?
They can get in touch with me they can email me at connectnow@SeanSamsonTraining.com. They can go to our website, SeanSamsonTraining.com. And if you're not living under a rock, you can see everything that we do on LinkedIn and on Instagram and on X. We are very good. My marketing team is very, very good at staying out and open on everything that we're doing, where we're at, and who we're training.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. All those links will be in the show notes. Sean, I really appreciate your time. Let's just say I'm in Cleveland, Ohio. I know you're near Cleveland. What's the one restaurant I need to go to in Cleveland, Ohio?
Oh, man, that's not a fair question. I would say that the one restaurant you probably want to go to would probably be, what would you say? My wife is sitting right across from me. I would say JoJo's in Chagrin Falls, Ohio.
JoJo's in Chagrin Falls, Ohio.
Yes, I would probably say that would probably, you're not going to be disappointed if you end up there.
Excellent.
Yeah.
We're going to put a link in the show notes to JoJo's in Chagrin Falls, Ohio. That's awesome. Sean, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Yep. Thanks very much for coming on the show.
Take care, Eric. Thank you.
Hey, this is Eric. Hope you enjoyed the episode. The takeaways are endless. Feel free to reach out to Sean if you have questions about the work that he does, and give the podcast a rating and review wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, share the interview with other people so that they can gain from Sean's wisdom. I'll catch you on the next episode. Thank you for listening to this episode of Construction Genius. Hope you found that 1% of inspiration to help you in the next few days. If you like the show, please give us a 5-star review on iTunes, share it with other construction leaders who you think would benefit, and always remember that the show is brought to you by Kick-Ass Meetings. I've been working with construction leaders since 2004, teaching them how to run extremely effective problem-solving meetings that gets their people collaborating, taps into their creativity. And to get yourself a free copy of the Kick-Ass Meeting Report, go to www.ericanderton.com/kickassmeetings. Grab yourself that free report, read it, use it in your business. You'll find it extremely useful. And thanks again for listening.